My wife, Claire, signed the new will in the gentle, sunlit office of her grief counselor, Dr. Peter Vale. She came home that afternoon, her eyes clearer than they'd been in months, and told me she'd found profound peace. Her mother's $1.8 million estate, she said, would no longer be a burden to us. It would fund the Clarion Foundation for Transitional Healing, a charity dedicated to helping others walk the path of grief. She showed me the website, soft colors, pictures of doves, quotes about renewal. The founder and executive director was listed as Dr. Peter Vale. I felt a cold wire of dread brush against my spine. 6 months later, the probate lawyer called. The funds had been dispersed. A routine check of the foundation's public tax filings showed its only program expense was executive leadership development. Its only physical asset was a Land Rover. And its only charitable disbursement in its first year was a single $500 donation to a pet shelter. The rest, $1.79 million, was classified as administrative costs and strategic reserves. The counselor hadn't helped my wife heal from loss. He had performed a surgical extraction of her inheritance, using her sorrow as the anesthetic. He didn't just steal her money. He weaponized her grief, convinced her that donating her mother's life savings to his personal bank account was the final, noble step in letting go. Claire's mother, Eleanor, was her compass. Her death after a short, brutal cancer battle didn't just leave a void, it shattered Claire's world. The vibrant, decisive woman I married retreated into a shell of listless despair. She couldn't sleep, couldn't work. Her doctors suggested therapy. She found Peter Vale through a local grief and wellness center. His bio was impressive. PhD in transpersonal psychology, author, specialist in meaning-oriented bereavement care. After the first session, she seemed lighter. He gets it, she said. He doesn't just want to talk about the pain. He wants to help me find the meaning in it. I was grateful. My own attempts to console her felt clumsy and insufficient. Peter was the expert. The sessions increased from once to twice a week. Then, they added guided mindfulness walks in the park. Claire started using new language. Peter says grief is a form of spiritual energy. We have to channel it, not fight it. She began to pull away from our mutual friends, calling their concerns superficial. They just want me to be normal again, she'd say. Peter understands I'm being transformed. The inheritance was a looming, ugly practicality. Eleanor had been frugal but shrewd. The estate was complex, a paid-off house, investment accounts, an insurance policy. Claire, the executor, was paralyzed by it. Peter offered to help. I've guided many through the practical labyrinths that follow loss, he told us over tea in our living room. He was calm, soft-spoken, his empathy felt authentic. The paperwork can feel like a betrayal of the memory. Let me provide a framework. He began reviewing the documents with her, separately. It's part of our process, he said, integrating the material and the spiritual. I was busy holding together our daily life, keeping my job afloat while Claire was absent. I saw his help as a relief, a professional handling the hard stuff. That was my first and most catastrophic mistake. The changes were subtle at first. Claire started talking about energetic debts and karmic weight. Peter, she explained, believed that clinging to inherited wealth could hinder the soul's progression of the deceased and the living. Mom's money is infused with her energy, her worries, Claire told me. To truly free her and myself, I need to transform that energy into love for the world. It sounded like spiritual self-help nonsense, but it made her feel better. Then, she announced she was rewriting her will. Not ours, hers. The one that left everything to me. Peter says it's an important exercise in non-attachment. To consciously choose where your energy goes. I was uneasy, but reasoned it was a theoretical exercise. She came home with the new will. It was brief. It left her entire estate, including her imminent inheritance, to the Clarion Foundation for Transitional Healing, a 501(c)(3) organization. I Googled it. The website was bare, but professional. Its mission was to provide holistic grief support and community healing. The board of directors was listed as Peter Vale, Ph.D., president, and a woman named Annee Reed, secretary. I couldn't find an Annee Reed anywhere. It's his sister, Claire said. She's a spiritual artist. They run it together. It's beautiful, isn't it? Turning our pain into a lighthouse for others. My protest was gentle. Honey, this is a lot. Maybe we should talk to our own lawyer first, just to understand everything. Her reaction was immediate, fierce. You don't understand. This is my journey. My healing. You're still stuck in the material world, just like Peter said you would be. This is why I needed to do this work alone. Peter had planted the seed. I was the unenlightened obstacle, part of the old life she needed to transcend. The probate finalized. Eleanor's house sold. The accounts were liquidated. A wire transfer for $1.8 million was sent to the Clarion Foundation. Claire seemed ethereally happy. Peter suggested a transformative retreat in Sedona for her, funded by the foundation as a benefactor experience. She went. I stayed behind, my unease curdling into a hard, sick knot. While she was away, I hired a private investigator. The investigator, a former journalist named Marcus, started digging. The Clarion Foundation's address was a virtual office. Its charitable programs were non-existent, no clients, no services rendered. Annee Reed was a ghost. The Social Security number on the Foundation's filings belonged to a deceased woman from Ohio. Marcus traced the Foundation's bank account. The $1.8 million had landed, and within days, $300,000 was wired to a property management company in Sedona. He found the listing, a stunning, fully furnished cliffside villa, purchased in cash by an LLC called Desert Echo Holdings. The registered agent for Desert Echo was Peter Vale. The rest of the money began moving in a complex pattern: large transfers to a brokerage account in the Cayman Islands, regular consulting fees sent to Peter's personal account, and monthly leases on 2 luxury cars. This wasn't a charity. It was a private piggy bank. Marcus also discovered Peter's past. His Ph.D. was from a notorious diploma mill. He had been quietly dismissed from 2 previous counseling centers for boundary issues with vulnerable female clients. He wasn't a therapist. He was a predator who specialized in the recently bereaved, preferably those with money. I flew to Sedona. I found the villa. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I didn't see a spiritual retreat. I saw my wife, Claire, looking thinner, dressed in flowing white linen, gardening alongside Peter Vale. They looked domestic. It wasn't a sexual image I saw, but something more violating. A picture of replacement. He had not just taken her money. He had inserted himself into the space her mother and I had once occupied. He was the new guide, the new source of meaning. I confronted her there. Her eyes held a placid, distant look. Peter said you might come. He said your fear would manifest as control. This is my sanctuary now. The foundation is doing beautiful work. I can feel Mom's light in it. She was gone. Not physically, but mentally. He had rebuilt her reality, brick by brick, with her own money funding the construction. I didn't fight Claire. I fought Peter. With Marcus's dossier, I went to the State Attorney General's Charities Bureau and filed a detailed report of fraud. I also filed a civil lawsuit against Peter Vale and the Clarion Foundation, alleging undue influence, fraud, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. The legal process was a war of attrition. Peter fought back with Claire's testimony. She gave a deposition, parroting his spiritual language, claiming she was of sound mind and that this was her freely chosen philanthropic vision. She said I was financially controlling and that Peter had liberated her. The breakthrough came from the forensic accountant hired by the AG's office. He traced the Cayman Islands brokerage account. Its statements showed not just Claire's money, but wires from 3 other similar-sized deposits over the past 5 years, from other deceased individuals' estates. Peter had a pattern. He was a serial inheritance hunter. When confronted with this evidence and the fact he was now facing multiple counts of felony fraud and potential racketeering charges, his spiritual facade crumbled. He cut a deal. He would disgorge the funds, what was left of them, and plead guilty to a lesser charge in exchange for naming his previous victims. The Sedona villa was sold. The cars repossessed. About $900,000 was recovered. The money returned to a trust, but Claire did not. The deprogramming from his influence took years of therapy with a legitimate, ethical specialist. Our marriage survived, but as a scarred, cautious thing. She looks at the recovered money with shame, not relief. Peter Vale served 18 months in a white-collar prison. He now lists himself as a life transformation coach online. Claire's grief for her mother was eventually processed. But a new, more complicated grief took its place, for the version of herself she lost to a con man, and for the brutal lesson that in our deepest vulnerability, we are not just open to comfort, but to theft. He didn't just want her inheritance. He wanted to become the sole beneficiary of her trust. This story exposes a predator who operates in the shadows of our most painful moments. So I have to ask, what are the unmissable red flags of a predatory therapist or counselor? The isolation from family? The new spiritual jargon? The sudden interest in finances? Share your warning signs in the comments to build a collective defense. And if you know someone who is grieving and seeking help, share this. It's a crucial warning. The most dangerous predators don't demand your money at knife point. They gently convince you that giving it to them is the key to your own healing. In times of grief, the greatest gift you can give a loved one is your clear-eyed vigilance.